So I tried to bring an improvisational spirit to my sketchbook and to my art making because I think it's generative, generous, inventive. It's sort of a fertile attitude to bring to our creative endeavours. And I think it keeps things moving. I thought in this video I'd expand on that idea. So back in 2009, I took an improvisation comedy class. I was not natural, let me tell you that. I hoped that it might make me a little less shy and reticent, a bit more confident with public speaking. It didn't do that, but it did leave me with a framework and a philosophy that I still think about in terms of my art making, and I still actually apply to the way I create. And I just thought I'd chat about that today. So the word improvisation comes from the Latin word improvisus, and the meaning of that is unforeseen, working with things that we couldn't have planned for, working with the unforeseen, working with what is in front of us, working with what is. There's a foundational principle in improvisation which is called yes and. And basically what that means is when there's someone else on stage with you and they say something or they create a scenario or they take it in a certain direction, you accept what they're giving you. You take what they're giving you as is and you build on it. And I think it's also a really helpful principle when we come to our own making. We look at what we created and we yes and. We say, this is what is on my page. This is what's on my canvas. What is my next move? How do I accept what is there and build on it? And the opposite of yes anding in improvisational comedy is no but. It's a blocking maneuver. It's sort of shutting down. It's saying, I don't like that. I don't want that. It's not how I want to take things. So blocking is a sort of rejection, and yes anding is more expansive. When I think about how we work in our sketchbooks, you know, are you subconsciously building or blocking? And I think sometimes it can be easy to criticize what we've done, to be negative about something that we've created, that, oh, this hasn't worked, this isn't right, I've made a mistake. And that can be quite an unhelpful mindset. I think it's much more generative to yes and. This is here. This is what I have got. How do I build on it? And there are a couple of quotes that I wanted to share with you. So there's a quote from the writer Malcolm Gladwell, which I find quite helpful when thinking about improvisation and making art. He says that bad improvisers often block action, often with a high degree of skill. That relates to art making in that often when we are making, we can be self-critical, and we're being self-critical because we're discerning and we want to create the best art we can create. But paradoxically, that sort of self-criticism and blocking of what we're creating doesn't lead us to improvement. I think it can shut down the action. It can shut down the scene. There's another quote that I wanted to share with you from the musician John Cage. And he says that the idea of a mistake is beside the point. For once something has happened, it authentically is. Which to me is yes and in, one sentence. Here are some of the paintings that I'm currently working on. They are unresolved, they are unfinished, they are in that messy middle. But as I work and as I add paint, rather than thinking, oh, I've messed this up, I don't like that, I've ruined it, this is wrong, I try and bring a yes and attitude. This is what's on the board. How do I best respond to it? So I try not to bring a sense of real judgment and blocking energy to what I'm doing when I'm painting. Just add something, respond, add something, respond, add something, respond. And so when I add something to a painting, I don't have to love it, but I also don't have to decide whether it's good or bad. It just is. And then I respond to what is there, either paint over it, add to it, use it, bring that yes and attitude to the making. So I thought it might be useful to pull a few books from my art shelf that I think represent an improvisational spirit.
So the first book I selected is one about Rex Ray, the San Francisco-based collage artist. It's a book by Griff Williams, published by Chronicle books. I love his artwork. It's bold and graphic, and I love the way he layers shapes and colours and pattern, and the way he came to start making artwork like this. He was actually employed as a graphic designer at the time, and he didn't like how one of his adverts or something was portrayed in a magazine, so he cut up a magazine and created a simple collage study, and then he kept doing it night after night, and he might make 10 or 15 of these simple collage studies in a night. Before he knew it, he had over 1,000. And in describing the process, he said he was not really thinking too much about the compositions and that he wasn't judging them. He described it as an exercise in turning off his internal critical voices. And clearly, over time, he created a very distinct visual language. And I think that feels really close to the idea of improvisation, of not interrupting the process too early, of letting things accumulate and letting something build without blocking it. And I think there's something about collage that is naturally very improvisational. You're not starting from a complete nothing. There's something there that you're responding to, adding to, adjusting, and then seeing what happens. So the second book I've picked is along the same vein or along the same lines. It is a book on Matisse, his cutouts, and it's published by Taschen and edited by Xavier-Gilles Néret and Gilles Néret. And this is about Matisse's later work after a period of ill health when he was no longer able to paint in the way that he had before. He had a surgery and was often working from bed or from a chair, and so he had to really adapt his process, and he began working with painted paper instead, cutting directly into colour, cutting and moving and rearranging and responding to what was in front of him. And he described it as drawing with scissors. And what I find interesting is that this way of working sort of came directly out of his circumstances. He adapted and changed and built a way of working which feels very improvisational to me. He's not starting with a fixed plan, but he's sort of letting one decision lead to the next.
So bringing improvisational spirit to our art making is not about not wanting to improve or making rubbish. It is more about our relationship to the making and our relationship to the process of making. The sort of yes and philosophy that I bring to my making doesn't mean that I have to love everything on my page or think any of it's perfect. It's just an acceptance that this is what's here. What do I do next? And trying not to bring a weight of judgment to whatever is on the page. That kind of good or bad, or this is a mistake, or this is wrong. That kind of energy, I think, can be very blocking. It can not be generative. And so I try and bring that idea of, yeah, this is what I've got. What do I do next? And I think it's about being really mindful about what you're saying about your own work as you're in the process of making it. Are you criticising, shutting down, blocking, or are you being accepting of what is there and adding to it, changing it, being more generative, being more improvisational, bringing that philosophy of, yes, this is it. This is what's here. What do I do next? Rather than, this is what's here. I hate it. I have made a mistake. This is wrong. So that's my thoughts for this week. Yes, and instead of no, but.